Today on Hands on Photography, you're asking me about the photography workflow. Once you get a gig set up or just shooting some spontaneous photographs, what exactly is your photography workflow? Well, I'm going to answer what my workflow is, and it may not be exactly like yours, but who knows? It may help you out too. So, y'all stay tuned.
This is TWiT.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Pruitt, and this is Hands on Photography here on TWiT TV. Hope y'all are doing well. I'm unbelievable as always. This is the podcast. I like to sit down and share different tips and tricks that are going to help make you a better photographer, as well as a better post processor. And today I am going to spend some time going through some feedback that I have received from you, the loyal Hands on Photography listeners. I figured this is going to be some good stuff that's worth sharing and help everybody else in the Hands on Photography community to grow in this space. You know what I'm saying? So thank you for all of your continued support. If this is your first time checking out the show, welcome to you and thank you for popping in. Go ahead and subscribe in whatever podcast application you're enjoying this on. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google, and whatever the podcast catchers out there are. We're pretty much on all of them. But if you got any particular questions, just go on over to the website, twit.tv/hop. That's twit.tv/HOP for Hands on Photography. And you'll see everything from the subscription options right there. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with this week's episode. Again, this is some email feedback that I've received. The email to the show is hop@twit.tv, just in case you want to send your questions and critiques and things like that in. But this one comes on over from Bert, so let me pull that email up right now. It says, "Hey Ant and Hop crew, my name is Bert, and I just want to start by saying thanks for doing the show you do. It's very informative and fun." Oh, you're so kind. And it has helped me get started with my photography journey. I haven't been following too long, though probably subscribed sometime last year. I appreciate you joining us. Which brings me to my question about how you manage your workflow. My apologies if you've covered this topic already in a video. If you have, please point me to it. But specifically speaking, I'd like to know how you go about planning your shoot, both spontaneous and a gig, as well as how you manage to pick and edit the photos you took while out on a shoot. I find it a bit cumbersome sometimes to go through photos, but it has to be done, right? You are 100% right on that one. And it continues. Again, thanks for your work, and you can include this email on the show if it's not too long. Have a great one. Cheers. And that comes from Bert Perez. All right. So yeah, a lot of folks ask about this, and I've touched on it in the past, but I said I'll go a little bit more into it this time around. But yeah, the workflow, the photography workflow, whether you're doing something spontaneous or doing something that is a paid gig or some type of gig that you have gotten set up and squared away to get in, to get it done. I want to talk about a gig in particular because with the spontaneity side of things, it's pretty much that. There's not much planning into it for me anyway. It turns into, if I'm sitting down on the couch just watching TV or what have you, and a thought pops in my head, I wonder what this would look like as a photograph. I literally get up off the couch, go grab a camera, grab a light if it's needed, and I set it up and try to shoot it. That's it. Or if it's just nice weather outside and I feel like I should just go out and shoot, I just grab the camera and go out and go shoot, whether it's somewhere out in public somewhere, whether it's somewhere out in the neighborhood, in the backyard or whatever. It's really that spontaneous for me. Every now and then I'll say, hey, I want to go do some street photography. So yes, there's planning on that part. So if I'm doing street photography, I have to think, where is the location and what time of day it is and what the weather is like, and have all of that in mind, because I don't want to go to a spot where there's no people. For me, street photography lends itself to having people in the scene in addition to the stuff that's going on in the background, because the people tell the story for me and how I like to shoot. But yeah, for the most part, The spontaneity part of it is truly that. It's really spontaneous. But now, on the other hand, there are gigs that you get set up for. You have someone that wants to set up a corporate headshot session, or they want to do family portraits or what have you. That takes a lot of planning, and it takes a lot of communication. Lots and lots and lots of communication. Get the communication done before you step foot out the door to do your site survey. Okay. You have to know what this potential client is looking for, what their expectations are, and meet somewhere in terms of an agreement as far as what you can provide, what you cannot provide, so on and so forth. All of that stuff, you have to get it ironed out beforehand. There's nothing worse than showing up for the shoot and there's being confusion, because I've done it before. There's been confusion on what the expectations are. You show up to the shoot and the client is expecting you to have this many lights or this many cameras or wanting to do this type of posing and in this location and yada, yada, yada. And none of that stuff was agreed on. So yeah, get all of that communication and stuff out of the way before anything. It will save you lots and lots of headaches. For me, I'm going to pretty much walk you through a gig that I shot earlier this year in 2021. It's been a very, 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 very slow year because of the pandemic. But I did do a shoot with someone, a young lady that's wanted to do some headshots, and she wanted to do a bit of a boudoir setup, and she also just wanted to do something that's more on the fashion side of things, something that's going to show off strong, powerful Black women. That was the message she wanted to present, and I said, all right, let's do it. So now I had to look at, okay, where are we going to shoot this? We had a location, but the location is I say about 2,000 miles from where I live now. It's all the way back on the East Coast, which worked out great because I was able to get over there during a holiday visit and get this shot squared away. Lots of fun. But again, that's some details that you have to handle way ahead of time. You know, you don't want to just spring this stuff up on people. So I got to the location. Well, actually, before we get into the location, we talked about what happens inside of the location from a lighting standpoint, because I needed to know, I'm bringing myself across the country 2,000 miles. Do I need to bring this big, huge key light here? Do I need to bring extra speed lights and things of that nature? Because that's going to go into the cost of the shoot. And plus, it's going to be a bit of a challenge for me on a traveling standpoint. So I have to know all of that ahead of time. We were able to do a site survey basically through communication. Hey, I'm going to be staying here. It has this windows, it has that window, it has the light coming in at this time of day, because all of that matters. Okay. If you're going to do a shoot at noon indoors, your light's going to be totally different from doing that shoot in the same facility at roughly 4 p.m. Because the sun is going to move across the sky and you need to know exactly where that sun is. In this instance, I knew the afternoon sun was going to move across the sky and have a bit of a backlighting next to the large windows in the home. So I knew I was going to need at least one light. Okay. So I had one light ready to go that was going to be powerful enough to set this up and get the shots that this client is wanting. All right. So now, that's the pre-planning part of it. Okay. So next, let's get into the actual post-production side of it. You've done the shoot, you've done the walkthroughs and all of that. So now you got all your files and your SD cards. What's next? Well, let me walk you through my process and show you how I set everything up in my cataloging system. I particularly use Lightroom. You can use whatever the heck you want. There's other things out there besides Lightroom, but Lightroom is what works best for me because it's a really, really great digital asset manager. And even with that, I don't even use it the same way that they prefer me to use it. I just use it for what works for me. So I'm going to pause for a second and pull up Lightroom on my screen, as well as just pull up my computer screen so you can see the actual workflow. Okay, so now I am inside of Lightroom and pretty much staring at my computer. So let me just show you exactly how I work through this. After I get back to the computer, I pull all of my files off of the SD card, and I have my own filing system that I like to use to help me stay a lot more organized. As you can see on the screen here, I guess I can make this a full-size screen. I have this folder called Lightroom, and I have another folder called Lightroom Catalogs. This folder called Lightroom is my working folder for the year. Okay, I split things out by year and by month and by project, if depending on what I'm doing. So in this case, it's going to be something based on a project. All right, so I'll click on the Lightroom folder, and you'll see there's a bunch of different folders in here based on the month. Okay, and then there's also based on the project. Like right here, this is a client folder for 2021, and the client that I've been talking to is right there. Okay, so I can pull those images from this particular folder into Lightroom. So I'll go over here to this import option inside of Lightroom, clients here, and then I made a demo folder just for today's presentation here. So got those there. I'm going to import them in like so. There. All right, so I'm good to go. I have all of my data pulled in from the card that I can work with. So over here on the right hand side, we have this box for keywords and tags. I always do my keywording and tagging before I do any type of post-processing on it. I just want to get that out of the way because Lightroom has a search capability that allows me to run through catalogs just based on keywords. So I'll go over here and I'll select all of the images, and then I'll go to the keyword box and I'll just start typing in some tags that apply for this particular project. For me, this is what works because my memory is pretty good when it comes to remembering when I do certain shoots. So I know this was in 2021, comma, this was a modeling gig. I usually will put their name. So I'd say name right there. I'm not going to type her name out, but she did give me permission to use these shots as part of my show example. And I will say maybe boudoir, whatever, just any type of keywords that you need. And I just tab off, and it's going to apply all of those keywords to each of these images for me. Okay. So now, then you have to go through the whole culling process. The culling process is you basically figure out, okay, I like this shot, but I don't like that shot. So I'm not even going to bother doing post-processing on it because it's bad. I misfocus on it. It just, the composition isn't quite right or what have you. So I need to throw that out of the way. For me, I like to cull based on colors. Lightroom has a way of doing star rating systems. I believe you can get ratings up to 5 stars. I find that to be a little problematic because sometimes that 3-star just may look as good as that 4-star. And then you're trying to figure out, do I really need that 3-star? No, I need it simpler than that. So I use a color system. So for example, if I look at this image here and I say, this is quite nice, but it's just a little bit overexposed. I don't know if I could save it. I'm just going to throw this image out. For me, I would mark it by a color. And it's just, we'll just say red. Usually red is the ones when I'm throwing them away. So for me, there's a keyboard shortcut. Just hit 6 on the keyboard and it says it set it to red. And then I just move on through and I say, this one has potential. Okay, if it has potential, I will mark it as a yellow one. Okay, so that one's yellow and so on and so forth. All right, so let's go back to the grid. Now, if this was about 500 shots on here, it's going to be a problem trying to figure out what's what. Fortunately, inside of Lightroom, there's this metadata tab at the top. If you zoom on it right there, I can click on that and I'll tell it, okay, I don't need to see anything that's red. So I'll just click on this red label right there. And when I'm ready to delete it, I'll just delete them because I don't need to see anything that's red. Okay. I'm not going to do that now, but you get it. So you can search by other information, even down to the type of lens that was used and the camera, so on and so forth. All of that is really, really useful information. Okay, so now let's go back And we'll take these labels off for the moment. So I'll get rid of that. So now let's go ahead and do some post-processing on one of these images. Okay, so this one, it needs some work. I could probably rotate it and check the exposure there and put in a little contrast, pull the highlights back, yada, 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 go through the whole spiel of setting this image up and making it look better for the client. Okay. Now I'm ready to export this out, but I only want to export this as a preview for the client. I'm not going to send it out with all of the full resolution. So what I like to do is go to the file menu, go to export. Now pull this other window over here so you can see it. There we go. And I have a bunch of different little presets over here. Now you can see I have one over here that's called Insta, because Instagram has its own way of handling images that you upload to it. Is because if you upload it at a ridiculously high resolution, it's going to compress it and screw it up. I figured out a way to fix the settings to where I don't get a lot of compression in there. So it's the same principle here. So let's just say I'm going to use this default one here. I'll change the folder. So we'll say we want this to export to our Lightroom exports folder. I'll make a new folder and we'll say hop demo like that. Select folder. And then we'll scroll through here and change these other settings. Like I want to put a watermark on it, things like that. See there, it says proof. I want to change the resolution. Can scroll up right here. So we'll change the file quality down to say, I usually do about 70%, something like that. And then do the resizing on this. I don't want to enlarge it, but I only want the pixel size to be on the longest side of it to be roughly 800 pixels. So regardless of the orientation, if it's in portrait mode or landscape mode, it's only going to be up to 800 pixels wide. Okay. And then I can remove location, yada, yada, yada. And I'll just hit export and it'll go to that particular folder like I need it to, and it'll only be in that smaller resolution. So after I've done everything in the batch that's been shot and called through and whatnot, and I'm ready to export more, I can just right click on them like that and select the whole group. And if I right click and say export, and then I can say export with previous, it's going to export it based on the previous settings that I had there or the preset that I selected here at the bottom. It's very, very simple, and it really does speed things up and keeps you from tapping through the same menu over and over and over again. All right. So now after I've done the proofing part of it, I of course have another preset that's going to allow me to get the full version of the image out to the client and ready to go for them. So now once all of that's done and I've gotten everything squared away, I'll have this folder and it's called exports. And this shows all of the exports for this particular year, my working year. After I'm done for the year, so usually early January, I move everything out of this folder into another folder. Like for this one, it's called Lightroom Exports 2021. And then the following year, I'll make another one called Lightroom Exports 2022. And again, this is just how I like to operate. You can do this any kind of way that you like. For me, it's just, I've been doing this for a while and I've found that separating things out by year and by month and by project, it makes it so much easier for me to find things. Plus, it also cuts down on the amount of times Lightroom likes to crash, because Lightroom uses catalog files. Okay. And those catalog files can get really, really big and start to slow things down, and it'll just crash on you. And I've had some crashes to where I lost a lot of that data that was showing what I did from a post-processing standpoint, and had to go back and redo the post-processing on a project. I didn't want to do that ever again. So I figured if I can keep those files smaller, I am going to have a lot less crashing. Maybe that's better nowadays, but unfortunately, I've gotten into that habit and pattern, and it seems to work for me. And it seems to allow me a much easier time to find things when I need to find them for later. Like this one here. I had no problem finding this one because I knew exactly where to look. I knew exactly what keywords I needed to look for. And I got the information that I needed to do this demo. Okay. So that's it. It's a lot of communication when it comes to doing these shoots, when you're doing gigs. Understand what your client wants, understand the location. If you can do a site survey ahead of time and figure out the best time to shoot at said site. Get all of that stuff squared away and out of the way. It's just going to be much easier for you as the photographer because you're not having to fight light or fight other elements in the shot, because there's nothing worse than going to a shoot and the sun is going down. So you're literally on the clock. And it's just a lot of pressure on you. So if you're out there too late and you didn't bring the proper lighting kit to supplement the lights that's out there, you got a problem. So it's a lot of trial and error, and it's going to take some time for you to figure out what's going to work best for you. But that's my workflow. I do a lot of presets. I do a lot of folders here and there that just makes it easier for me. Okay. Now, for those of you that are not beginners, photographers in this world, what do you do? What are some of your workflow styles and ways of operating when it comes to photography? Let me know. Send me a message over on Twitter or Instagram, or just shoot me an email. I'd love to know what you all do. I hope this has been helpful for you, Mr. Burt, and I appreciate you sending that email on over to me. All right. So that's going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you all so much for the continued support. Really does mean a lot. Again, if you have any questions, feedback, or comments, you can shoot an email to hop@twit.tv. Again, it's hop@twit.tv. I answer them all. I can't say I always answer them quickly, but I do answer them all as fast as I can. Or better yet, just follow me on Instagram and follow me on social media. So go to Instagram and search for Pruitt. That's right. Just go over there and search for Pruitt, @_Pruitt, and give me a follow over there. And feel free to tag me in some of your favorite posts that you've created there on Instagram, or things that you found interesting. Or you can give me a follow over on Twitter. I am @_Pruitt on Twitter as well. All right. Thank you all for the support. Thank you to my man, Mr. Victor, for making me look and sound good each and every week, especially when I do shows like this that make it ridiculously difficult to edit. Thank you, Mr. Victor. I appreciate you, brother. All right, folks, you know how we do it. Safely create and dominate, and we will catch y'all next time. Y'all take care.
No ads, just the content. That's what you get when you join Club Twit. You even get extras like Twit Plus, our new bonus feed just for members, and exclusive access to the Club Twit Discord community. Join now for just $7 a month and support Twit as we continue to create top-notch podcasts you expect and deserve. We're just getting started, so be one of the first to join as we build Club Twit from the ground up. You could be an early member. Go to twit.tv/clubtwit to learn more and sign up now. Thanks.